everyone. Welcome to today's broadcast. My name is Buck McMurray, President of the Americas, and I'm joined today by our CEO of Nu Skin, Ryan Napierski. Ladies and gentlemen, give Ryan a big, warm welcome in the comments. And if you haven't done so yet, please let us know where you're tuning in from, you guys. It's so good to have all of you joining us this morning, and especially because today we're talking about something really, really fun. At least it's fun in my world.
Absolutely.
And it's imperative to any business, not just direct sales or a Nu Skin business or network marketing, but any business. If you don't have this key element in place, you will be running ragged. And I think that's even more so the truth in direct sales and network marketing.
Absolutely, Buck. And yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the call. Buck, thanks for continuing to carry the torch with this call. I think we set this call up, 4 months ago, 3 months ago?
Yeah, it's been a while.
And then I ducked out, and you've continued to drive it forward, Buck, and this is so important. And thank you to all of you for showing up every Friday for this call. It is so important that we consistently apply ourselves to whatever we do, and just showing up to this call, hopefully it's helpful for all of you. This is something that we've been talking a lot about. In fact, I posted on LinkedIn a week or so ago about the power of systems. And Buck, your point, I think, is the one I would love to start with, which is, it doesn't matter what business you are in. Successful businesses have systems. Apple has a system. NVIDIA has a system. Microsoft has systems. Amazon has systems. So this isn't a principle that is wholly contained in network marketing. This is simply a systems-based approach to success, because anything that scales requires systems. You cannot scale without systems. And it's kind of foundational truth in business.
I did my MBA here at Brigham Young University, and there was a gentleman in my class, a friend of mine, that he had a lighting store. Of all things, just a lighting store. I remember going in the class, I was like, oh man, this is the most boring business on the planet. But he was a systems-driven owner. And so he had a system in place for managing the inventory. He had a system in place for training the employees. He had a system in place for getting the sales. I mean, so much so that his system he took for managing the inventory, and he went out and he sold that to other lighting stores and eventually sold that company. That all it was a system for managing inventory for like $38 million. He went on to develop others. So he's doing a company right now that all they do is teach restaurants how to instantiate systems in their business so they can run more efficiently, but generate more profits.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what business you're in. In our world, we call this SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. And you have to have those standard operating procedures in place to get the right outcomes. But more importantly, as business owners or as people that are buying businesses, when they're looking for a business that is packaged, that has those standard operating procedures in place, and the multiples, the valuation of that business goes up if those SOPs are in place when they're buying it.
No, it's fantastic. And by the way, we're watching everyone pop up here. Listen, we've got people from Sweden, London, Miami. You guys, it's so good to see Scotland. It's so good to see you all here. And hopefully you're inviting people to these calls. Let's make sure that we set the context right as well, Buck. At the end of the day, those of you on this call, you guys know the power of systems already. You are building businesses with Nu Skin. You have past experience in business. So this is not intended for Buck and I to sit here and talk about something, by the way, that we don't know or do. We run our global business on a whole source of systems. So everything to do with product, creation, formulation, fulfillment, compensation, logistics, technology, everything that we do, because we have to scale it across 50 countries around the world. So we apply systems to our world, but that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're really here to talk about are the power of systems that every one of our leaders are using. And this is something that I've been reflecting on, and that was my LinkedIn post. I was based on this for 32 years. living around the world. I was in Europe for several years, Korea, China, Japan. Regardless of where I've lived and where we've built our business, the leadership who wins in Nu Skin, and I would argue across the entire industry, but I've only had 32 years in Nu Skin, have systems.
Yes.
They're systems-based thinkers
Yes.
and systems-based doers, and that's obviously how they create scale.
Yeah.
And so the discussion we're going to have today is not Ryan and Buck out there building systems. You guys know how to do this. The intent of the discussion is really to share some of the best practices that we've seen over 30 years of the industry. How long have you been in the industry here?
Oh my gosh.
It's got to be
30.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Yeah.
But so the leadership that we've seen, and so we'll try to kind of call that out as well as we go. And hopefully this is helpful to you as you're looking at your system of growth. By the way, I'm seeing India pop up here. India, brand new market. You guys have the opportunity of building your system from the ground up. So let's talk.
Okay, so I wanted to start by just adding some definition around what a system is, because we were having this discussion with a core team here in North America, and we were talking systems, and one of the leaders was like, Buck, I don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And she had in her business systems that were set up, but she just wasn't making the connection between what she had put in place and really what we were defining as a system. And so she was thinking it was an app or something like that. Mm-hmm. This is not an app, okay? It's a recipe. And so as I pulled up just some of the different definitions of what a system is, it gave them for operations side. It gave them from specific people. There's W. Edwards Deming, who developed the whole car manufacturing and lean manufacturing model. But the one that I felt like was most applicable, it says for sales or duplication organizations, here's the definition of a system. A system is a simple, repeatable process that enables ordinary people to consistently produce a desired outcome. And it says the last word, consistently, matters. As an individual getting a great result isn't necessarily evidence of a system. A system exists when other people can follow it and predictably produce the result. And I think that's exactly what we're doing here at Nu Skin and in direct sales overall is, duplication.
Yeah.
It's trying to get other people to be able to have success. Nobody is trained on direct sales and network marketing.
Yeah.
You don't go to school and you don't study it.
No, yeah.
And so there's got to be some type of a system in place that helps other people, a recipe that helps other people find that success.
Yeah, I think when I try to encapsulate it down to how to define a system, to me there's just 4 words. It's got to be simple, it's got to be teachable, it's got to be measurable, it's got to be scalable.
Yes.
So simple to understand, right? This business, we always say this business it's hard to do because you have to be consistent, but it's relatively simple in terms of what actually has to happen. You have to acquire customers, you have to acquire brand affiliates, you have to advance those brand affiliates, you got to create leadership and scale leadership. But the simplicity is critical. The teachability, of course, if it takes 3 days for somebody to learn your system, that's 3 days that they've got to just complexly look through. So how do you do that? The measurability, as we know, measure what matters. If you can't measure the output, you can't scale it, which is then the 4th element. And so I think that idea of that simple, teachable, measurable, scalable framework is a great way as maybe a new leader or a new brand rep coming into the business, they have to start thinking about how do I build a team that, and of course, when you're building that team, you may not feel adequate to be able to do that. Maybe your upline's only been in the business for a month. They're inadequate. Sit down and just think about what are the core behaviors. Simple, teachable, measurable, scalable. Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
It was funny because
STMB, yeah, I like that. STMS. I like that. Who is that?
I sense a hat. I sense a hat coming. But you guys, so throughout my career, I have seen so many different systems. And early in, when I started in direct sales and network marketing, the system was very simple. It was through hotel meetings. Mm-hmm. And so what would happen is you would invite people to a hotel meeting. Somebody would show up. It might be someone like a Nathan Ricks or a Jeff Mack. They would do a presentation. They would sign those individuals up to you. And then the goal was in 30 days or 60 days, they'd be back. But in that time, you're just telling the story and inviting more people to that venue. They sign up, buy the pack, and it's just this process of invitation. That's what it was. But that was back in the 90s, when I started my career, the 2000s. Today, it's a heck of a lot different.
Yeah.
What are some of the systems as you've been traveling the globe that you've seen work in other markets and other countries across the globe?
So one of the things I've been thinking about, and obviously Nu Skin's an interesting business. If you look at any other brand in the beauty and wellness space, you can't name more than 4 or 5 brands that have existed for more than 40 years.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't happen. Maybe oil of Olay, right? If we thought about like your grandmother's skincare. So as I've thought through this, to your point, Buck, like this business has seen multiple evolutions through time, and systems have evolved during those times. So if you think back to the 1980s, which by the way, I joined in 95. So I don't know how the business looked in the 80s. What I do know is it was pre-internet era, and what I also know is in the 90s we were going through the internet revolution. So at that point in time, if you think about it, we used to call our distributors. And the reason we called them distributors is because they literally bought product. You guys bought product, and you literally went door to door and delivered the product, and you were distributing the product. Thus, you were called distributors. All of a sudden, the internet comes along, and customers and affiliates start to order directly. So are these distributors? The system had to change because you weren't driving door to door delivering product. And that evolution happened, and leaders read the market and shifted their systems into an internet-enabled business. Now, fast forward, 10 years goes by from there. So the job changed. You're no longer driving, and so your system had to change. All of a sudden, social media hits. Well, what happens now? Social media is you're not, before you're using the hotel meeting, as you said, you're using the living room meetings, and you replace that for social media. Now you're attracting people on social media. So again, systems shift again. Like this is just something that happens every decade or so. The environment shifts. Leadership has to evolve the system, and that system will successfully achieve. Here's what's interesting to me, though, Buck. Around the world today, we have leaders who build social-first systems. So if I think about, Gretchen and Amanda and Carly and what they're doing with social media, or Emma, and you have leaders building that way. You have leaders like Thomas Kogler doing assessments and building a model that way. You have leaders doing hotel meetings and building that way. You have leaders. That to me is not the biggest question. The biggest question is, do you have a system?
Right, exactly.
Because meaning the question isn't, do you have a socially enabled system, and you must build social first. What we're learning in time is that people can be successful in all different sorts of systems. Here's what can't happen, and I'm going to stake my 32-year career with Nu Skin on this statement. Leadership that doesn't have a system is short-lived. You can build for 3 to 5 years without a system because it's just pure momentum of a market. I look at India right now. India can succeed over the next 3 or 4 years simply by momentum of the market. It's new, it's exciting, people are interested in it. At some point, in order for that behavior to scale, it has to be systematized though. And it will not last, and so it's critical during those points of momentum, and that can apply to somebody new in the business. You might be so excited about it that your exuberance is going to attract people into your business. It's going to attract people to buy in the product. But at some point, if you want to scale yourself, and by the way, energy runs out. If you've ever run a marathon, you're going to run out.
If you don't want to burn out,
you got to scale.
You got to have a system in place to be able to scale.
So I think to the point, I didn't answer your question directly, but what I do know is it's not. The systems absolutely are different and varied around the world, and it's really hard to point to any one and say, well, that's the one that matters most, because I've seen models that work every single time. What I'm more worried about today, and we can get into this because somebody mentioned Eric Warre. We've been having a lot of conversations with industry friend and expert Eric Warre talking about this point. The challenge today is that the internet strained systems, right? It strained it. Social media changed systems. COVID broke systems.
Yes.
Right? And so when we look at that issue, and let's dive into that for a second and have a conversation, because I think this is important. When I say the internet strained systems, meaning people had to change their behavior because your customers and affiliates. Today, 98% of all products sold in Nu Skin are sold through the website.
Yeah.
That is exactly opposite. It was 100% in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. It was 100% of revenue was sold door to door, delivered to the customer.
Yeah.
So internet comes on. It strained the model. Social media changed the model, meaning now you're leading out. You're not going into a hotel meeting, or you're not going into the living room. You're reaching out through social media. So it strained the model because the outreach. You're losing connection, that personal connection, but people have been able to evolve and accommodate. COVID broke the model because what happened is it locked us out of the belly-to-belly, face-to-face, person-to-person nature of the business. And what happened during that time, and we talk about with our friend with Eric, that change, strain, breaking of the model broke for many organizations the systematic way of building.
Yes.
And we kind of lost that side, and at least I'm observing that around the world. Yeah. There are great systems around the world today that are working, but I would say by and large there are more organizations that lack a system than there are organizations who have a system today.
So I've got an example of how COVID broke this system. So I wasn't with Nu Skin during COVID. I was with another company. It was a food company out of Canada. And we would take product to the customer, we would sell and recruit through what we called cooking classes. So our affiliates would go into a home, they'd schedule a cooking class, the host would then invite all of their friends and family to come over. They would cook a 3-course meal. It would be appetizer, main course, and dessert in 20 minutes or less. This was the whole thing, the whole pitch. And every single one of those cooking classes would generate somewhere between $500 and $1,000 in sales. And I could look at the whole business and the organization. I could say, how many cooking classes do we have scheduled? Here's the revenue that's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks or month. And here's how many more cooking classes we need to add to be able to make sure we're hitting revenue. Well, what happened during COVID, especially in Canada? Everything shut down. Nobody could go into homes. Nobody could do these cooking classes. And immediately we thought, oh my gosh, if we don't change working with the leaders and find a new model, we're dead. And so within a 2-week span, we got together with our leaders and created a online cooking class where they were actually putting together Facebook groups, the host would still invite people to this cooking class. The individual would do a virtual cooking class, and throughout the week would just pop in there, here are the different offers and everything. And they were selling about 20 to 30% more through those cooking classes. And so we immediately were able to shift and move on. But to your point, systems change. And I would be willing to bet that it's the systems that the companies have, that the leaders have to take product to market, there's trends in those. And when those systems break, if the leaders and the company don't work together to change the way that they're taking product to market, they will die. And a company like us that's been around for, Ryan, we could go through and we could talk about over the decades all of the different systems that have been used for customer acquisition that have kept the company going for decades. But it's the ones that are able to adapt. The adaptability is what allows a company and a business to be able to continue to grow.
Well, I think you said something really important. By the way, I love the comments coming through, so please continue to drop them. I'm going to dive into Louise's, Tom. A couple of these comments you guys are making are phenomenal, so let's dive into those. But as we're going into this, Buck, talking through that, you said something really important. There are many systems that are, so I would call them microsystems within a system, right? So your point around, there are systems of selling product, there are systems of duplication, there are systems of recruiting, retaining, developing leadership. There's all kinds of microsystems within systems that work, and those have to evolve. Louise Spencer, you made a great comment, and by the way, Louise is, and I'll say this with the greatest affection, Louise is an animal. She is a systems animal, right? So Louise's comment was, in the UK, can you scroll back? Let's see. Sorry, Don. In the UK let's see, one of our biggest, there we go. The biggest mistake we made in the past in the UK is building systems around a product rather than something that will enable us to pivot faster when the market changes. I think this is a beautiful comment, and it's so critical, you guys, because if you understand the meta algorithm, if you're building a business simply on product, and product attributes and keywords, in other words, and meta changes or alters that algorithm based upon, by the way, based upon simply what's trending. By the way, TikTok does the exact same thing. The minute they adjust their algorithm away from whitening toothpaste, which is exactly what happened, we went from selling almost zero whitening toothpaste, well, it was like whatever, I think it was 100,000 tubes a year to 8 million tubes a month. Like in 3 months. This was several years ago. The minute Meta decides to change it away, because whitening became a thing, it started trending. The minute Meta shifted that away from the product, the business goes down because you're not getting traction. You don't control the market in the social hemisphere. And so Louise's point around that mistake around building around a product versus building around something that is sustainable, I think is absolutely critical. So the question then becomes, what is sustainable? Here's the point I would love for us to just do. And by the way, I use Chat and Claude all day long, right? And so you guys can do the exact same thing as you build out and evolve your system. Load in what system you're utilizing into Claude, load it into ChatGPT, ask it to evolve that system slowly in order to bring your organization greater success. Tell it what problems you're having. It will give you some input and insights based upon what's trending, what's hot in the market, etc. Now, those tools are only as good as we use them. So I always say that these LLMs, they're like genius kindergartners, right? They're real prodigy kindergartners. Really smart, and they're totally ignorant at the same time. But they can help you think through that. But getting back to Louise's point, what is sustainable that you can build around? You guys, there are 4 behaviors that have never changed since 1984 in this business. You got to acquire customers. Have a system around acquiring customers. You have to have a system around acquiring brand affiliates. You have to have a system around building teams, in other words, becoming brand representative, and you have to have a system around leadership development. Now, within those 4, there are micro systems within. So customer acquisition, you're going to have a CRM system. You're going to have an attraction system. You're going to have a relationship building. You have to have a convert system. In BA, it's the same thing. How are you going to attract them? How are you going to bring them in? How are you going to nurture them? How are you going to get them duplicating? When you get to that third one, how you're going to build a team, you're going to have microsystems. Leadership, you're going to have microsystems, right? Those systems, though, those 4 behaviors don't change. It hasn't changed with the internet. It hasn't changed with social media. It hasn't changed with AI. This business is foundationally rooted in those 4: acquiring customers, getting brand affiliates, building brand rep teams, and building leadership. Those don't change. So those are the consistent systems that you can evolve. And by the way, those will change. How you acquired a customer in 1984, knock, 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 or pick up the phone, get them to a hotel meeting, right? Today, it's social media. You're still acquiring customers, right? Next year, it might go back to door to door. People may just completely throw up on AI and Meta because it's all the ads that are coming. That's okay. Your systems have to evolve, but they're always going to evolve on those 4 things.
Yeah. So Ryan, you mentioned a couple of things that I think is key. On those 4 areas, I want you guys to think right now and say, do I have a system? Is there a system in place? And the test that is given to understand is, can I teach it? What I am doing to acquire customers or find a selling product, can I teach this? And if you can't teach it, or if you're not teaching it, maybe there's a breakdown in system. Now, the other one is maybe you're teaching it, but it's not being repeated. So even though you're teaching it, somebody's not able to do that, to follow the recipe. And that's another element of, if it's too complex, or the average individual can't jump in and they can't get some modicum of the results that you're getting, then you've got to simplify that. Because
simple, teachable, measurable, scalable,
yes,
right? Those are the things.
exactly.
Simple, teachable, measurable, scalable.
And then the other thing, if you're not tracking it, like if you are like, okay, I can answer all of these things, but if you're not tracking it to understand if your system is actually working, then you have no idea if it's moving the dial or not. You've got to be able to somehow track it. Now, we talked about, this is not an app.
Yeah.
This is not an app.
Let's dive into that.
Okay.
But let's dive into that.
It's not an app, you guys. These are, again, internally, we do not have apps that track every single system that we have for pricing, product development, or anything. There are just ways that are doing things that are documented. And so it might be, I'm going to teach somebody how to find a customer. And the way that we find a customer from day one is posting this or doing this or inviting here. As long as it's written down and you can show somebody, here are the steps to finding a customer, that's a system.
Yeah,
that's
right.
a customer acquisition. What are your thoughts on that?
So, no, I think it's great. I'm actually laughing at a comment here by Terry saying, how do I prompt my upline to develop a system? You guys, here's one of, so I'm going to provide some research, some market research we did several years ago. It's been now 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were researching successful organizations versus unsuccessful organizations in Nu Skin. If you think about Nu Skin is a collection of thousands and tens of thousands of organizations around the world. And we always have organizations. It doesn't matter how the company's performing. We have organizations in every single market who are winning, who are growing at 20, 30, 40% year on year. In every single market around the world, we have winning organizations today. In every single market around the world, we have losing organizations today. So this is, just to be clear, this is not about, and this isn't a criticism of any one person. So we did research on this a few years ago of what is the difference between the winning and losing organizations. And again, it came back to systems. But here's what was interesting. Over 70% of our new brand representatives, when they were asked, what help do you need in building your business, it was more than 70%, I forget if it was 73 or 76%, said, we don't know how to build it. In other words, we don't have a system. We don't know what to do in order to be successful. We called those people internally hungry for help.
Yeah.
So 70% of our sales force at any given time is hungry for help. This is not a criticism of the upline. The point I'm making here is that systems are key for success. But this point around how can I prompt my upline for a system, you guys, here's the deal. The reality is sometimes this business moves too fast that your upline is almost as new as you are. We saw this during COVID. We had stacks of blue diamonds coming in who were all under 1 year old.
Yep.
And so they didn't have a system. They were seeing enormous success with the new model, and they had no idea what a system even was.
Yep.
Now, fast forward 5 years later, the leaders who are still winning have those systems. Yeah. That's not my point. If you don't have a system today, first and foremost, I would ask you to reach out to your account manager, have this conversation. The company can help you start to think through your own system. But again, don't get overly complex about that system. How do you acquire customers? Really do some thinking about how do you acquire customers? What works and what doesn't work, and write it down. That starts to be module number 1 for your system. I acquire customers through social media. I acquire customers by walking around the supermarket. Whatever it is, start writing down, how do I acquire customers, number 1. Number 2, how do I acquire brand affiliates? If you haven't yet acquired a brand affiliate, talk to your upline, because they acquired you. What did they do to get you in the business? And start to think about what got me into the business and write it down. That starts to be module number 2. Module number 3, how did I become a brand rep? What was it that I did to start building a team of customers and brand affiliates? Write it down. That becomes module 3. Module 4, if you start to advance through pin titles, start writing it down. How did you do it? How did you get from gold to lapis, get out of lapis land and get to ruby in your first success trip? And how did you do it? Write it down. If you haven't yet achieved gold, lapis, ruby, talk to your upline. Ask them for a referral. If you don't have an upline, call your account manager. We'll put you in contact with somebody who can talk through this. My point in saying this is, if you don't have a system, it's your opportunity to develop one. But don't get, to Buck's point, simple, teachable, measurable, scalable. Don't get overly complex. Start simple, write it down. And by the way, again, I'll promote it. Put it into ChatGPT. Yeah. Put it into Claude, put it into one of the LLMs, and start refining it little by little, and it will help you think through what works, what doesn't work. Say I'm a new skin distributor. I'm 3 months into the business. I haven't yet been successful. I don't have an upline, or my upline left. I need to understand how to do this. Please build me a system with new skin sales compensation plan, the SPP, and it will literally spit out a system. Now, I'm not telling you that's a good system. I'm telling you that's a framework and a template that you can start to test against. Yep. And say, did this work or did it not work? Your best source is always your upline. But if you don't have an upline that has a system, you can build your own. Start simple, teachable, measurable, scalable.
So there's a couple of things that I wanted to double click on there, Ryan. One is, guys, if you don't have a system, build one. And you have got to track the results of it. If you're not tracking the results of it, you don't know if it's working or not. You don't know what your conversion rates are, and you don't know how you're helping people progress into becoming an affiliate and then moving up within the business. You have got to track all of those activities. The second point that I wanted to make was, some of you guys you're in organizations with systems, but I think there's probably some of us that are kind of balking at that, where we're not engaging with the system, the daily activities that are required within the system to get the results. And what I would ask you is, if you do have a system, if your upline has a system, be fully committed for 30 days and track the results of those activities. And once you do, you will see that you're getting the results. And if you're not, then it's going to take some subtle adjustments to make sure that you are. But you guys are the owners. I love this book right now that we're reading with Eric Worre, where he talks about, you know what? Don't put the blame on your upline. It's on you. If there's a system in place, do it. If there's not, take ownership of it and start creating one. Figure out how to take product to customer, as you talked about. That is step number one. And if you can just show people how to take product to customer, then you can help some people at least have a side gig.
Yep.
The second phase is, as you pointed out, is helping find affiliates. If you can teach somebody how to find an affiliate, you're going to start getting growth. And then the third one is, how do you help people understand, once they get an affiliate, how do you launch them? That's when duplication begins. And then the leadership is all on the back end after that.
I love it. And listen, again, great comments coming through. I think so. We've talked a lot about a system. What is a system? Simple, teachable, measurable, scalable. Don't overcomplicate it. We've talked, so those are the 4 principles of the system. The 4 elements of the system, the unchanging behaviors. How do you acquire customers? How do you acquire brand affiliates? How do you build a brand rep team? How do you build leadership, right? Those 4 things, they don't change. How they evolve will change, but those 4 fundamentals don't change. Myra's point here is phenomenal, and I'd love to double click on this, which is do it for 90 days.
Yes.
And your point is absolutely spot on. I will tell you, this is interesting. I always say new skin is a marathon, not a sprint. But I would argue, you guys, anything in life that requires successful achievement mandates consistency over time, right? If you want to get fit, you don't work out for a week and look in the mirror and say it didn't work and you stop working. You don't work out for a month and turn around in the mirror and say it's not yet working. You don't even work out for 90 days. You commit to a lifetime of working out, and that's how you will become fit. It's the same thing with weight loss. It's the same thing with earning money, with starting your business, with doing anything in life. Being a successful father or mother, being a successful colleague or coworker, having good relationships. These are things that require lifelong commitment to doing. Now, I get that that sounds daunting when you start the business, but I will tell you, in time, as I've observed, and we've had amazing leaders over time, one of whom absolutely was a highly successful leader here, Nathan Ricks. Nathan built systems almost unlike anyone I've seen in the business. I mean, we have others. Rain Ho is phenomenal at building systems that have lasted decades. These systems last decades, not 90 days, decades. Now, these guys are COE4s. They have built enormous businesses that stood the test of time. Unfortunately, we lost Nathan 4 or 5 years ago in a plane accident. And yet, his organization continues to sustain volume-wise because of the systems that he built over more than 30 years. And so my point in saying this is one of the saddest things that I observe literally daily in Nu Skin is people who join the business with a dream. They never quite get a systematic approach going, a cadence, and they quit just before they learned the most important lesson. And the most important lesson is that if you want to be successful in anything in life, you must commit long-term to doing that thing. And it's just something that we see over and over and over again, that people start by dabbling in Nu Skin. And by the way, that's great. We always hear from one of our leaders, John Emerond in Thailand, very strong, successful leader over time. John and I were talking about this principle of the 3 L's: livelihood, lifetime, and then a legacy. And I was having this discussion with him when we were over in Greece for one of our Team Elite trips. And he said, Ryan, he said, you know, I kind of got that wrong. He said, yes, there are 3 L's. You start in the business because of livelihood, meaning I just need to supplement my income, right? I want to pay a car bill or an insurance bill, or I have a medical bill I need to cover. And most people start in the business just with a livelihood.
Yeah.
But once they get into it, there starts to be this interest in a lifestyle. Maybe they want to go on a success trip. They want to start traveling. They want to take their family somewhere. That leads them to, maybe I want to do this more than part-time. Maybe I want to actually have this be my replacement job. That's the lifestyle. But at some point, there becomes a bigger calling. And that bigger calling is a legacy, that I want to do more than just treat this like a job.
Yeah.
That I want to do something that lasts beyond me, that is generational, that my children can do, my grandchildren can do, and that's what's called the legacy. And John talked about, and he said, Ryan, those 3 L's are right, but I forgot there's a 4th, which is over a lifetime. And that point is, and the leaders that are successful in Nu Skin that transcend the livelihood, the lifestyle, and the legacy, is they realize this is a lifetime pursuit. We're about ready to go into live event, global live in Yokohama, Japan. And you are going to hear from some of these leaders, Kaneko-san. This is one of the most powerful, forget Nu Skin, the most powerful network marketing leaders of all time. And Kaneko is a lifetime builder. He and I, we had a call a month ago, and he was kind of chewing me out about, Ryan, we're setting our expectations for leadership too low. We got to set them higher. You just see that people that truly embrace this principle of Kaizen, of perpetual improvement and perpetual success, go through that livelihood, lifestyle, legacy, and lifetime journey. And it's that way for Nu Skin. It's that way for a successful family. It's that way for a successful fitness. You got to commit to stuff for a legacy and a lifetime.
Okay, so let's recap all the stuff that we talked about. STMS.
Yes.
Okay, so
STEMS.
Simple, teachable, measurable, scalable.
Yes.
Okay, so those are kind of
that's what defines a system.
The pressure test of a system. Second thing is, if you currently have a system, if your leadership has a system and you're not engaged with it, get in the system. Okay, engage with it. Give it 90 days. Run, and your holidays are going to be completely different. Let's see. What would we say?
The 4 behaviors.
Four behaviors.
Yeah, we got customer acquisition, brand affiliate acquisition, brand rep, team building, and leadership development.
Yes,
those are your core.
Those are the core ones.
Core 4.
Okay. Anything else that we're missing?
So we talked about 90 days and commitment for 90 days. For the last thing I would say, guys, is start today. Sometimes we get overwhelmed with the journeys that we're on, whether it's a business journey, whether it's a personal journey, we get overwhelmed. Just start today. Listen, if you're not building with a system, don't beat yourself up. Just start to think about it. That's why I say just take some time and start writing down, how do I acquire customers? How do I acquire affiliates? How did I become a brand rep? What worked for me? What didn't work for me? How did I build leadership, or how am I building leadership, or how do I want to build leadership? Just start today. But it's not only about writing it down. Then start to act.
Yeah.
Start to talk. Make commitments to yourself. I love the power of habits. I think it's Charles Duhigg, where he talks about, and you got Simon Sinek that talks about habit stacking, or no, it's James Clear in Atomic Habits. He talks about habit stacking. If you don't like talking to people, which I know a lot of you on the call love to talk to people, if you don't like talking to people, make a commitment to talk to 5 people today about the business. Make a commitment to talk to 5 people today about the product. Make a commitment to make 1 social post a day for the next 30 days about a product or about something about the Nu Skin business. Whatever you do, make daily commitments. Daily commitments turn into weekly successes. Weekly commitments turn into monthly successes. Monthly commitments turn into yearly successes. Yearly commitments turn into a lifetime of success. Like, don't let yourself never get started. Yeah. Like, you got to start today. And so that would be the only thing I would finish with is just start today. Do something today to build your business. Write it down. Do it again tomorrow. Commit to that for 90 days. Look back, knowing that this business takes time. You're not going to be, I promise you, you're not going to be successful in 90 days.
Yeah.
You will not. I didn't achieve my fitness dreams by a 90-day sprint, right? You're going to get better in 90 days, but what you should get in 90 days is the focus, the hunger, and the determination to go another 90 days. And that next 90 days will get you to another 90 days. And those 90-day sprints will turn into years of success, but it's just applying power principles.
So in closing, Mallory mentioned have fun.
Yeah.
Okay, all of this, you guys, it should be built on fun. And I'm going to tell you from my experience, one of the most fun things that we do at Nu Skin is helping other people be successful. Our mission is to be a force for good by empowering people to look, feel, and live better. And there is nothing more rewarding than seeing somebody come into Nu Skin, come into the business, having such small belief in themselves and in the brand, within the products, within the whole system. And within a short time frame, seeing them grow personally and have belief in themselves, have confidence in themselves that they can do more, be more, and seeing an opportunity to step in and become a leader, not just in Nu Skin, but in the society and in their home that they're in. That is the most fun. That's the most enjoyable. And you guys, live our mission out loud. Go and help people develop and become those leaders in their communities. And the way that we do that, the way that we develop leaders at scale is through systems. But if you're sitting here today and you're like, well, I don't have a system, then start small, as Ryan talked about. How do you find customers? How do you start talking with people? And then once you have that in place, move on to the next one, to the next one, and to the next one. And before you know it, you guys, you're going to be developing leaders that help other people look, feel, and live better. All across the globe.
Well, and I think, Buck, so please drop in the comments. If you enjoyed the discussion on systems, I would love to continue to dive into this, bringing on some leaders today who are building with powerful systems, have them share their best practices. We want to make sure this conversation is helpful. So please keep tuning in, get your teams to tune in. Drop what works for you in the comments so that we can continue to evolve content based on what you want to hear and what you want to dive into. There's a ton going on. Those of you you who are going to Global Live September 15th and 16th in Yokohama, Japan, we'll see you there. Come up, say hello. Those who can't make it, we'll miss you, and we'll post. We'll do some things afterwards to wrap up on that. But this business is going, and we appreciate your partnership as we go. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.